but Halo, like, lost my progress. I was playing Halo 1. So I was like, man, another bridge where the ship's attacking you. You have to get across the bridge? God damn it. That took me forever. And then I get to the next stage, and I'm like, wait a minute. I did all this already. So that kind of bums me out. Alright, this actually got underway a lot faster than I thought. Soul played a very long series against Cyan. I eventually took the third game with battle cruisers in like a 20-25 minute game. But I guess Soul's kind of used to it. Soul does play a lot of late TVPs. So we're already here into the second semifinal best of 5 in the top right as the blue Terran. He is HeRoMaRinE. In the bottom left, as the red Terran, it is Soul. So HeRoMaRinE is no stranger to the semifinals, and we do expect him to make it into the finals. But Soul is actually a little bit of a stranger to semifinals. Soul is good enough to make the semifinals. I think that's actually just a base statement. There are a lot of players who are good enough to make it to the semifinals, given an appropriate, day and time and bracket. There's a lot of standard, I would defeat this guy most of the time throughout the entire bracket. Maybe not today, but most of the time I would. Like, there's enough players there that I think anyone reaching the semifinals is like, okay. Max Pax has been there a couple times now. If Harsum made it, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Mana makes it, yeah, okay. If Lambo makes it, yeah, okay. But, yeah, Soul's one of those guys where it's like, I don't know if I'm thinking ahead, from the round of 128 that you're going to be the one to make it, but it does make sense that you're here. I do think it is his first time being in the semifinals. I'm not sure about that, but it's one of the few times he has been. I haven't covered all of the European Open Cups, and I also haven't covered all of the semifinals, so it's possible I just forgot one or two, but regardless. Now that he's facing HeRoMaRinE, caliber of player that HeRoMaRinE is in this Open Cup, I think it stops here. It's Soul again, making anything in the semifinals, yeah, okay, makes sense. But then you reach the guys who always make it to the semifinals, so that's HeRoMaRinE and Clem and I guess Showtime also typically does if he actually plays. And then it's supposed to be that you're done. You just stop. They're facing each other. Don't even try. But Soul, I know, has it in him to take some really surprising games. I'm not sure TvT against HeRoMaRinE is going to be that matchup. Where I'm like, oh, wow, finals. Oh, wow, that's awesome. That's excellent. I'd be as surprised as I was when Bly made it to the finals. But to be fair, Bly didn't make it to the finals. So it happens. HeRoMaRinE's just a very solid player, which I think does help in TvT. And he's actually playing a pretty defensive game on Jagannatha. High ground command center. I saw that it was going to be a factory expands, but you don't necessarily have to do a high ground command center against a factory expand. If there was a proxy somewhere, then obviously it makes a lot of sense, but a little surprising for HeRoMaRinE to be this defensive. Doesn't have a wall, which is fine. Has plenty of units, actually built 2 Hellions, because he's going to go for a drop as well. So drop with Hellions moving in can be difficult for some people to perfectly split against. But Soul should have enough units. He seems to be in position. Finally, HeRoMaRinE slaps his command center on location, so Soul is actually able to catch up in the economy and move on to the Raven. Cyclone is here for Soul. HeRoMaRinE's front army is prepping. He's going to get a bit of a scout, see what's prepared. I love Soul's little line here so he doesn't get hit by Splash. Even the grenade, I would consider the Splash. Medevac's waiting in the main. I don't think anything here to defend against it. There is nothing. Soul does instantly pull his army to the main and pulls his SCVs away in time. A little bit of a supply block, and ooh, pretty good Widowmine hit, actually, because it hit the Cyclone to one-shot it, and then it also splashed the SCVs, so HeRoMaRinE also, I think, very intentionally microed those SCVs down, just missed this guy. So 7 SCVs in total. As the medevac lives, I think that's good enough, actually. I mean, they were in a pretty even place with HeRoMaRinE's command center being on the high ground. So for HeRoMaRinE to now get a 7-worker lead thanks to that, yeah, I think he's in the lead. There's not much else that's actually different as well. Sometimes it'll look like someone's in the lead, and then it'll be like an instance where 5 barracks are done for one person, but not the other, or Sims done for one person, or, you know, whatever, right? But no, they're pretty much doing the exact same thing down to their 3rd CC timing. So straight up, Soul just takes a loss. If his Cyclone was in the main guarding against a drop, it'd be a very different story. But he was a lot more concerned about what could hit him in the front. Didn't consider the presence of a medevac, and didn't have his units quite prepared in time. HeRoMaRinE's actually going to continue the aggression. Bringing over his tank and the medevac, and just a single tank too. Usually when we see these types of pushes, it's more what Soul has, like 2 tanks, 2 Ravens. The Vikings are being produced and rallied over. Well, HeRoMaRinE's got 2 Ravens, 1 tank. He's going to try pushing into this. I'm not sure it's going to work though. Seems like a pretty solid setup for Soul, but auto turrets can really change things up. Already going a bit better for HeRoMaRinE as he target fires down the Ravens of his opponent. Didn't actually go so much better for him, though. It was a bit of a wash, actually, but the Ravens going down for Soul was a pretty big snipe. I do believe HeRoMaRinE target fired with his auto turrets, which is exceptionally difficult to do. The auto turret is already a really weird spell because the range of its cast is a single, it's 1. So it gets awkwardly close. And then the auto turrets aren't usually, like, you're so busy fanning out Marines, target firing with your tanks, and trying to get the Ravens the hell to dodge, that usually the auto turrets aren't micro, but I think it was. So both Ravens go down for Soul. HeRoMaRinE loses his position because Soul did micro his tanks to kill his opponent's tank, which is also Interference Matrix. Now it goes down to, well, was the bigger grab the 2 Ravens? And I think it was. As far as that direct engagement, I think the bigger grab was the 2 Ravens. But sometimes it's awkward, you know? The longer the game goes, TvT, it's like the mid-game, a lot of times using Ravens is really difficult to do. They get sniped so easily as they run a bit faster over terrain than your Marines, and they're not doing anything. And we get to the late game, and they go back to being good again, but that's, you know, pretty late game. A lot of things to consider. Other thing to consider is that HeRoMaRinE does not have as fast of stim, which means he does not have combat shields for this push, which is probably even the bigger difference maker in some situations. His 5 barracks are finishing up, whereas Soul's is actually very, very evenly timed on that one. So it really is the big difference of the upgrades. 1-1 done for Soul. Combat shields almost finished as well. HeRoMaRinE, actually with 3 Ravens, tries to take the fight, but I'm not sure he should have taken this fight. That's a big concave of Marines from Soul. While Interference Matrix was good on the right side, it won't grab him the tank. Oh, will grab him the tank. Barely grab him the tank. And the fight, well, actually, hold on. So HeRoMaRinE just wins. What the fuck? What? HeRoMaRinE just wins. He just won there. That's insane to me. I mean, Soul had high grounds, his tanks were sieged, his Marines were spread out. I mean, he didn't have as many units, and his utility had dropped because of the Ravens. I mean, a big point about the Ravens, and the Ravens were very helpful for HeRoMaRinE. But even I didn't think that they were going to be able to win the game like that. I guess Soul just shouldn't have let his Marines out of the tank fire. He should have brought them back. Well, okay, now he's taking a fine fight. Combat shield's very much so helping against the tank and Marines of HeRoMaRinE that were spilling in. The game's not over, but like, holy shit, what the fuck? Their TC was lifted over to the right side, so it is back to mining fairly quickly, but that was a devastating blow for Soul to take. In the economy, it is a blip, perhaps. And Soul could try and play out this game Either by taking some risks and being aggressive, the best defense is a good offense type situation, or it could just straight up be super defensive and hope that tanks save his butt from future attacks. Because the economy is absolutely in favor of HeRoMaRinE. Fully saturated on 4 bases soon, actually. He's going to have these SCVs to pull away on his 4th base in like 10 seconds. Yeah, I guess his Marines should have been pulled back to cover his tanks against the Vikings landing. God, the way some of these pros can size up engagements in TvT, you're like, wow, I can do that. And then that's when you do it, and then it looks really stupid. It's like, but I saw HeRoMaRinE do it. No, don't try that. Anyways, I talked about big risk being taken, the best offense. Wait, best defense, a good offense, and that's seems to be what Soul's going for. What's my mouse doing here? There we go. Triple drop to the left is going to try and bop a command center, not yet turned into a planetary. He's almost hitting the right timing, but HeRoMaRinE's army is actually kind of in position to defend it, so I don't think he'll get it. And then I thought he was moving over to the right side, but it looks like he's not. So it is just this attack. It does find the command center. Initially pulls away, but then pulls it back on, and he's not going to get the command center. It would have been a fantastically timed snipe. Would have been brilliant, but it wasn't quite well timed enough. A little bit of a drop off to the right side. I like these little squadrons of units just to keep tabs. While he keeps his tanks at home. He has to be very careful with his tank count. It's going to be able to save his life, keep him alive. And if he starts losing 1 or 2 at a time, because he's trying to be fancy, like it's gonna kill him. But even without using his tanks offensively, I don't know if he has enough. HeRoMaRinE has about 20 more army supplies. Going to run in before the tanks are sieged. 4 of them are now sieged. And that is a planetary being made. Just enough Marines for Soul to cover, as well as then they actually had a better upgrade lead. 2-2 was already done for Soul. And HeRoMaRinE 2-2 is literally only just now finishing. That was a little bit more awkward than HeRoMaRinE intended. He saw the tanks were on siege. You saw, you know, an okay number of Marines, but not a whole lot. But that was just enough to cover the tanks. The upgrades really kicking in a situation like that. And HeRoMaRinE kind of gets, he gets a little slapped back. He's like, no, you're not going to kill me quite yet. Now, HeRoMaRinE isn't just trying to push his head through a wall. He's not trying to break a brick wall down with his forehead. He could, but that's how you lose TvTs. Instead, the much smarter play, and this has been developing, you know, the last couple of years, is to go into mass ravens. I think is the most recent real development. Before that, there was the whole Viking Liberator play out, right? But now it's just like mass ravens is the way to go. Can be tricky. We'll talk about that in a second. But that is exactly what HeRoMaRinE is going to. He's already got the infrastructure to build up to ravens, but he is still behind on 3-3. And there's a lot of things to be said about what makes TvT a beautiful matchup. There's lots of things to say about mobility. Whether you go into mass raven or you go into Viking Liberator, both are going to slow your composition down a little bit. So while it is theoretically the best composition, there are games where Soul does what he just did. He just runs by. What the hell's going on with my mouse today? Jesus. He just runs in and snipes the 3rd base. That can happen. Until HeRoMaRinE really gets him into a... he's got the chokehold on him, basically. He finds him up against his own base. Which is kind of happening over here. Interference Matrix plus an anti-armor missile. As HeRoMaRiNE's going to have plenty of Ravens to use very, very soon. And Soul cannot take that fight. He will have an upgrade lead for like 40 seconds, but not if an anti-armor missile is on him. Definitely not then. He's going to try and protect his 5th base, as that would actually put him ahead on bases compared to his opponent. So his bank's going to start to accrue, but as his bank starts to build, he also needs to get that infrastructure similar to what HeRoMaRinE is doing. He's going to be playing catch-up, but at least he'll be eventually on the same type of composition. Right now, okay, finally adds on 2 starports. He finally does. Trying not to be outpositioned. 2 planetaries really helping him, but the tank count really isn't actually that impressive. He's now building 2 at a time. The drop finally got back into the main base. Gonna go after 14 SCVs. Maybe grab the armory. Nah, he's not gonna target fire it. The 14 SCVs certainly isn't bad. And from the left side, Soul actually pouncing on top of HeRoMaRinE, as he also didn't have enough tanks. And his Raven count was actually, I think it was non-existent. I think they got sniped. So HeRoMaRinE, where is his army? So much of it responding to the call in the main base. Like, I swear he has an army, 114 armor supply, but it doesn't look like it. And Sol is going to use that little break out there. He got out of jail for a second. He's going to use it to go and take the top left. He's going to put a house on... Actually, you know what? I don't remember any of the streets in Monopoly, so I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to use that analogy. How the fuck can I remember any streets in Monopoly? Still going for a drop again at that still vulnerable third base. That's a brand new command center. He's not going to be able to grab the command centers, but he does grab 12 more SCVs and maybe hops up into the main base. Not quite. Things are about to get awkward as well, as Sol does not have a sensor tower around his force. So he doesn't see that HeRoMaRine's army is actually moving forward. That is pure Marine trying to type a planetary, and it absolutely will be able to. Or just actually run past it. Just run past it. Yeah, run past it. Gonna grab it on siege tank. 2 tanks are sieged here, but they would be obliterated. Meanwhile, on the other side, tanks siege up, take care of the planetary for HeRoMaRiNE. Now, HeRoMaRiNE is the one that has to defend maybe in his naturals to siege up his tanks, but they're both paying attention, I think, to our offensive armies, not their defensive armies. Sol actually, thank God he got those 2 factories up and running, as he now has almost 4 tanks in the main, but HeRoMaRiNE just picks up and drops, but his supply is really not looking so hot right now. That is a lot because HeRoMaRiNE has lost so many SCVs. He still has a 20 army supply lead in the army, and the upgrades are all even. In fact, HeRoMaRiNE has a better upgrade lead for his tanks specifically. He's also found a much better position, and he is using his Raven technology to the fullest of their abilities by going ahead and taking out tanks. He just took out like 4 or 5 tanks from the fight, and while 2 of them might survive just barely, HeRoMaRiNE is going to hold on to his production, where Sol's production has been entirely compromised. Most of it is already dead. Sol, he had a bit of a bank. He's trying to use it to replace his barracks. He's trying to take care of some of these Marines with his tanks in the low ground. But there's no stopping HeRoMaRiNE from just picking everything up and going out of here. Just leave. Medevac's not even being controlled on the other side means that Sol's army supply really is in the dumpster. It's not good at all. And this got way spicier than I thought it was. I mean, Sol's already playing a pretty damn good game, using what he could. Using his mobility was looking quite nice, but then it went into a base trade. And I think the only reason it went to a base trade is because there was no sensor tower on Sol's fort. If it's not a base trade, Sol's doing a great job of catching up. He's about to go into his own air army, and this game plays on for quite a while longer. HeRoMaRiNE even going to take the fight over here, and that might force Sol to tap out. Not quite, but, I mean, I think he's down just medevacs for his army supply. Oh my god, he has so many barracks. He actually had a lot of money to spend on production, but they are about to be found out. GG. Well played. Shit. Cool TvT. They are professional e-gamers. Do not try this on ladder. Yes, that should be an alert that pops up. I'm gonna get like a, you know, all the typical stereotypes of a warning sign and put that over it. Damn good TvT to start things off, though. Yeah, HeRoMaRiNE had the ball in his court for most of that game. It got stolen for like 30 seconds, but it went back to his court. Why is that a saying? Hold on, let me think about that. The ball is in his court. I mean, you call the entire... Wait, is it a basketball reference or is it a tennis reference? I actually have never thought about this saying before. The court is like the entire... You could just say that the more I say court, the more it doesn't sound like a real word. I don't know. It's tennis. Okay, so that first mistake I made, I don't know why I thought it was going to be basketball. Because that's what I was thinking of, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. The entire court is called a court. Like, there's no... When the ball bounces in your court during a game of tennis. Yes! That makes so much more sense than basketball. Alright, figure that part out. We become more educated. Anyways. The ball was in HeRoMaRiNE's court for most of that game. Except one time Sol had to... No, okay, you know what? It doesn't... This... This analogy's stupid. I don't like this idiom anymore. This idiom has failed me, ultimately. I refuse to use it. In the bottom left of Oxide, he is HeRoMaRinE. The top right, you got the Red Terran Soul. I guess it's like, it's kind of like, I wasn't really using it right when I said that, actually. I guess when we say it in Starcraft, we're kind of saying that the ball is in your court, as in it's up to you to make the win happen. But it doesn't really work, actually. The ball is in your court means that you have to do something. You have to do something in order not to lose. You have to hit the ball back. But HeRoMaRinE wasn't the one that was losing. It's not that he had to hit the ball back. You know what? I'm thinking way too much about this. Way too much. Anyways. HeRoMaRinE was winning for the majority of that game. Starting off from the drop in the early portion. 7 SCVs went down, and that was in a very similar setup, so... But it really, I think, turned into his favor when he actually broke Soul's back on that third. I felt like he broke his back, and Soul tried his best to be Batman and recover in this, like really weird jail cell in the middle of the desert. But instead of actually leaping and escaping from that jail, he left and he died. Okay, that's what happened. If Soul was Batman, that movie ends with Batman falling down and killing himself. It's a bit grim, that's what it is. But, as grim as that is, put a positive spin on it, Soul did almost recover from having his back broken. That was a recovery. It was 30 supply down at the end of that the fight. That shocked me to my very core. It's a Foursquare reference. Does anyone play Foursquare past like middle or high school? Is it like a competitive Foursquare? I guess not in COVID times. It's not 8 feet apart or 6 feet apart. SCV building command center gets sniped. So that's a great start for HeRoMaRinE. He wanted another one, but he's not going to get it. He has a second Reaper on the way. But Soul also does. Or, no, he finished a reactor. Oh, I got confused. It's all loading bar. Well, he has Hellions on the way, which is even better than the second Reaper. So, no more SCV should fall. Both of them had to no. Oh, you know what? I noticed this while I was watching, I think, one of the casts. I don't remember which cast it was. When I was watching, I noticed that Oxide, if you look at the mini-map of HeRoMaRinE, it looks like his command center is off-center. And I feel like the other maps don't have that problem. But anyways, HeRoMaRiNE's is on-center, but he did force Soul to have to lift up and then make his orbital. Chases down the Reapers. Takes care of both of them, so... Could maybe try and go up the ramp against whatever's left over, and that's a single Hellion, so it wouldn't have been bad, but Soul doesn't know that. It is a ramp-based natural as well, which just inherently means it's a bit better defensively. So HeRoMaRinE, he's like, okay, you're gonna try, I'm gonna be ready for this, pulls one single SCV to mess up the micro. But Soul's not even gonna try, so. Tomorrow on ZombieGrub, we dive into this section. The meaning of the proof is in the pudding. Yeah, what the hell is that about? I think the ball has gone off the deep end. I listened to a real crime podcast where it's also kind of like a comedy podcast. And they were intentionally mixing up idioms, and it actually got pretty funny. So, drop from Soul into the main base. It's going to be able to see that is a third CC already done, but those 4 Hellions are going to make that third CC really work for itself. It's got to work for its money. It's got to actually be the thing that brings HeRoMaRinE back into this game, actually. Maybe not. I know what he wanted. I know what Soul wanted here. I mean, first of all, I think he knew his medevac was going to die. So he was like, fuck it, I'll just like sacrifice it. But then he also probably knew that SCVs were on their way back. And if he had gotten a single lineup on half of the line, like the SCVs in a single line, he would have gotten 10 SCVs for sure. But that was a very good response. HeRoMaRinE was entirely out of position, but a single unit, an SCV, scouted the drop, which actually probably saved his life. I mean, that was supposed to build a supply depot, I guess? Yeah, there you go. But he pulled fast enough and pulled his Marines in the main fast enough to actually save those SCVs. I thought he was going to get about 15, 18 of them toasted. Instead, Sol ends up still being behind by 2 SCVs, and he doesn't have a 3rd command center. So, 3rd CC, you don't have to work for your money anymore. You can stop stripping on the side of the street. You're fine. If HeRoMaRinE had lost 15 SCVs, that 3rd CC would have brought him back, though. That was a very fast one to get away with. Sol is trying to get it a little bit closer to the timing by putting his command center on location, which is a really powerful maneuver, actually. It does really help. If you see the 3rd CCs in the main, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm really behind on that one, on location really does make a big difference. But it is still clearly a lead for HeRoMaRinE, who also has very similar production as his opponent. Engineer base, barracks, got some tanks, got some ravens. Very similar situations, but HeRoMaRinE has 4 more SCVs and is already building off of triple CC. I love that we're still discussing the balls in your court, saying... I do think it is, like, acceptable what I'm doing, and I think that is generally what it's supposed to mean, but if we really look at it, it doesn't really make, you know, the most sense. But a lot of idioms don't make the most sense. What am I grab? We got a Marine, I think. Cheeky, what am I? So with the 3rd CC on location, Sol is doing a decent job catching up in the economy. I think this means that his extra 2 barracks are going to be later, and that's exactly what it means. Yeah, Marine's 2 barracks are almost done. So Sol is going to have the same tank production, the same starport production, but he's going to be behind 4 Marines every cycle. Ooh, this fight is a little bit awkward, but so many Ravens here from Sol, auto-turning and interference matrixing the tanks, means that even though Sol's tank siege up looked a lot later than his opponent, HeRoMaRinE's tanks were actually firing, so they were faster in that sense. And that was a pretty damn good fight for Sol. 3 Ravens, man. It's a hell of a drug. Sol does kind of push into a very awkward area where there's not a whole lot that he can instantly take out. It's not like he pushed into the 3rd immediately. But it looks like he will actually hold on to the 3rd, and that's still a problem. It is still a problem. I think HeRoMaRinE just saw more units coming across the map, and I would say that's where you just pick up the CC and try and hold on for dear life, but he's not. Auto turret comes down to help break the initial tanks, and he will be breaking both of them, but here are 2 more tanks to go. Marines, though, not quite holding up to their end of the deal. They're not going to be able to protect the tanks. Not quite. HeRoMaRinE is barely going to break through. At one point there, he was down about 15 supply, but he is holding on. And I guess it is worth talking about how Sol's supply lead, and still supply lead in that army, is a little bit in those Ravens that are now out of energy. So... there's a little bit of that, and HeRoMaRinE with his faster production on the barracks. I don't know, his 4th and 5th barracks weren't quite reactored, but he does have more barracks. Barely had enough Marines to get those barely good enough concaves that do a wonderful job against low numbers of tanks. It's why, like, those really early tank pushes that you might face on ladder, like the 1-base tank drop or something like that, might feel scary when you let it go for a long time. But actually, if you just pull a couple SCVs, it's really not that bad. Kind of similar scenario. Sol was actually quite spread out, so tanks fall, tank fell, tank fell. Almost got there in time, but not quite, so tanks fell. And Sol actually lost quite a few tanks in the attack. But once again, finding HeRoMaRinE out of position, and so in fact completely out of position, that HeRoMaRinE just picks up his units and goes over to the right side, and is going to hope to save his command center, but he would absolutely not. Sol scans ahead, realizes he has a chance to burn that down, and he does. Excellent grab there, but now you gotta wonder, where the fuck is his army? What is happening? And there's the army. He's gonna get at least a couple of SCV kills. I don't know if he's gonna be able to get the command center as well, but it's always that question of like, well, you get the command center versus 22 SCVs. What is actually better? It's kind of a hard question to answer sometimes. Missile turrets aren't quite done. Oh, the timing of that is so brutal. Sol's Marines also not plentiful enough to stop this from being dropped out. Equal upgrades, and that eventually will be enough Marines. Okay. Equal upgrades means that Soul just needed a few more Marines. And he did bring a few more Marines, so finally pushes that back. But HeRoMaRinE even saved both medevacs. Just barely, but he did. So definitely a good trade. 25 SCVs versus the 3rd Command Center. What is actually better? Let's think about it. 400 minerals. That's 8 SCVs. So in terms of a direct mineral trade, that's pretty huge in favor of HeRoMaRinE. However, in terms of what they are doing, being alive, this orbital is gaining energy and calling down mules, and it's building SCVs again. And it's mining consistently. Even with those losses, it's still mining fairly consistently. HeRoMaRinE, of course, had his big old gap, but as he sets it back down, he is completely saturated compared to his opponent. Even severely oversaturated, because this is actually his 4th. He was building a 4th, which is why it seems like this was rebuilt so fast. So at the end of the day, it feels like Soul got the worst end of that trade. And I guess when you consider that HeRoMaRinE already had such a good economic advantage in this game, it seems to have carried through to save his loss of 3rd. That earlier economic lead of having such a fast 3rd made up for losing his 3rd much later on. That's what it seems like. And HeRoMaRinE is even making way for a 4th command center, which is going to be built? It's already built? The fuck did he get room for that? It's already built. Look at that. Alright. Well, Soul is definitely behind on the economy then, as he builds his 4th once again on location to try and catch up. HeRoMaRinE might have seemed like it was really bad to lose an orbital. Doesn't seem like it's that bad. Gave it a minute, and HeRoMaRinE doesn't even seem like he lost a goddamn orbital. Looks totally fine. Sensor towers aplenty. I hope Soul gets one as his 4th as well once it's done. He's going to reveal his army. Still got 2 Ravens to help out with the battles. Tanks are going to siege pretty late, though, as HeRoMaRinE gets a nice concave. Auto turrets and a single anti-armor missile that did not hit very much do land on HeRoMaRinE, and HeRoMaRinE just did not have enough Marines to cover those tanks, and the tanks didn't bother sieging. I think he thought it was going to be such a slam dunk that he didn't bother sieging. And that command center that was a replacement for it. That was his 5th command center built in this game. Actually just died to Soul's double drop. What Soul? Damn. With a 1-2 punch, just won this game. HeRoMaRinE got back up to even supply, more economy, and he just lost the game within 30 seconds of that. It was a maxed out fight. It was maxed out to maxed out. It was a totally even game. And then he just lost it. The possession of the ball merely implies who controls initiative, not necessarily describes success or failure. So, okay, the reason why I think it's so awkward because it is tennis is because in tennis, having the ball in your court actually is the bad thing. If it's in your court, you have to do something to stop it from being in your court. You have to throw it back. Because if it's on your court and you miss it, you're in trouble. But if it was a basketball reference, if it was the ball is in your hands, which is a saying you could also use and probably a more appropriate one, the ball is in your hands means that you are now in control of getting further ahead. Because you have the thing that shoots and makes the goal. In tennis, that's not what happens. If the ball is near you, if you have the tennis ball, you're in trouble. That's why I think it's weird. It's actually found in 50 minerals because of the orbital cost. That's true. So that's 11 SCVs is worth an orbital. But that was still a much better trade. But it doesn't matter because HeRoMaRinE just he took one really bad fight and then he didn't catch the drop to the right, which caught the planetary before it was done. So in the bottom right of Lightshade now, it is HeRoMaRinE. On the top left, there's the Red Terran. He is Soul, managing to tie up the series. It does seem like Soul's action is better. maybe some of the fights are going better for HeRoMaRinE. You know, that first game had a couple of fights that HeRoMaRinE just, like, I was surprised he took, right? And while that last fight in the last game was not at all HeRoMaRinE favorite, that was a pretty bad fight for him. Yeah, maybe HeRoMaRinE's taking the better fights when it comes to, like, large-scale engagements. It feels like Soul is actually pushing victory a lot harder. You know what I mean? Like, his aggressive maneuvers, his, you know, maybe his risk-taking, him just being out in the map all the time and always moving is actually getting him more opportunities to win the game. And because he was kind of coming back and looking a bit more powerful in the first game before the base trade happened. So, I guess, you know, Soul's playing a style of Terran that's very uncomfortable to play against. If you're calm and collected and you defend perfectly, which is very possible, you're fine, and they overextend, or they continue wasting minerals, and so they can't transition into the better army. Or they do find openings, and they do force you to mess up, basically, even the pros. The more things that are happening to you that you have to defend, the more chances are that you mess up. Also, the more chances that there are that they mess up, too, but that's the test. that's the Starcraft game. And I felt like HeRoMaRinE was very confident. And so he took a fight where if he had sieged his tanks, I think it is very different. He had like 9 tanks. And if they all sieged, even if his Marines all died and Soul had 20 Marines left, you don't run into 9 tanks. HeRoMaRinE goes for Ronax Expand. Soul goes for Factory Expand. We're familiar with this. I think we're gonna bunker this time, so... Actually, that's actually really interesting. Wait... So the bunker itself, sometimes, like, you just don't want to deal with the fuckery that is Reaper Hellion in the early game. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. But he's also not getting a reactor. Which a lot of Terran builds do. Whether you're going to swap it off to your factory or not, you usually get a reactor. So very intentionally not getting a reactor until after 3 more Marines. He's going to do a drop again? Does he get a faster starport because of this? Is that what it is? Because, you know, if you get a reactor faster, you have Marines probably still at roughly the same time as a drop, but there's got to be something different. You know what? I wasn't paying that much attention to the actual build details. That's for an analysis video, I guess. So, Soul's factory is going to swap over to the reactor, and he is going to once again go for a Hellion drop, it looks like. It wasn't super successful in the last game, but I will say that it seemed like it was close to being successful. It was kind of coincidental that HeRoMaRinE's SCV was out there. If he drops here, for instance, it could be pretty brutal. And it was also just barely in time. The SCV pull away plus the Marines guarding them. Definitely could have gone differently. Hellion drop headed for the very bottom side of the base. Means that HeRoMaRinE will absolutely see it. Can he once again pull in time? Bit of a later pull as he prioritizes moving his army up to the high ground. His army is a decent number of Marines once again, though. He actually might have done this in the previous games, I just didn't notice. I think a Reaper got into the natural but was taken care of. The drop continues into the natural, but with 2 Hellions already dead, no longer is able to one-shot the SCVs, and that did even less damage than last game. Hello? I guess even here, Marine thought the army was going to move away. It's like, man, that Hellion just killed an SCV and a mule. Third CCs for both players coming down. Let's see if they also go for the same amount of Ravens. Raven play has been very instrumental in each other's victories for both games. Been big differences because of auto turrets or anti-air missiles. I will say that that last anti-air missile in the last game was kind of funny. It was funnily bad. It was the auto turrets helped. The Dorito dust, not so much. Got one tank, not very helpful. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Sim starts up for the same time for both players. Also on the Viking count. Soul actually gets faster barracks by a decent amount. How did that happen? I guess he has actually. Oh, well, I mean, that is maybe literally the spike of SCVs being pulled or not being pulled. Damn, the smallest things affect a Starcraft game, doesn't it? Vikings pop out and are like, well, we could kill the Ravens, but like, do we want to? There we go. Interference matrix on one of the tanks, and then auto turrets to help protect that tank. Auto turrets didn't cut it with the Marines. Tank's gonna go down. And Ravens probably should have gotten out of there a bit faster. Both are still gonna live. Ditto for the Soul Ravens. High ground on the turret almost got it, but... Alright, so good defense from Soul. HeRoMaRinE is now down in army supply. But they kept all of their expensive slow building units alive. Primarily the Ravens, I should say. The Ravens are kept alive. HeRoMaRinE did lose some tanks. But is producing steadily. Wow, Soul's really getting a lot of things faster. Again, very, like, small differences, but 2 barracks... Is that his 4th and 5th barracks already on the way? Huh. HeRoMaRinE caught up a little bit in the barracks count, but he has fallen behind in 1-1. Oh! Wait, what? Wait. Didn't I say that Stim started at the same time? Did he kill Stim and I just entirely missed it? Oh, that is my bad, guys. Whoops. I was so busy focusing on like the cleanup on the low ground, I didn't realize that he actually targeted down Stim. Okay. Alright, that's yeah. I was like, I could have sworn they started Stim at the same time. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So HeRoMaRinE, knowing that then, his tech lab's only building one thing at that time, is going to be feeling more confident than I thought he would. That was a misread from me. Whoops-a-daisy. So to make up for that, Soul also he builds 2 tech labs, which actually does make his production a little bit awkward. Like, eventually he could transfer off of a tech lab. He could transfer off of both, actually, if he really wanted to. But you don't usually see that. So he's been reduced down to... why would I do math? He's got 1 less Marine producing than his opponent. I already did a lot of on-stream caster math for that orbital thing, alright? Like, I did my job. No more math. Double Raven checking for, I guess, a 4th base potentially being built. That's kind of an odd scan. Like, HeRoMaRinE might have heard it, question mark, but he's like, where the fuck was it? The Ravens are not going to freely go into the natural with nothing to defend, so it's going to be a couple SCVs killed. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, jeez, oh lord. The Raven just kept coming back. HeRoMaRinE was like, oh, it's only 2 auto turrets. Oh, wait, it's 3. Oh, wait, it's 4. Oh, wait, it's 5. That does mean the Ravens are not back here defending, though. And HeRoMaRinE's going to try and take advantage of that. Remember that he... Oh, God! Also has the Viking superiority, and he is going to absolutely wreck face. Wrecking face. So many of the tanks of Soul that could have helped defend his natural over at that 3rd base. Out of range, being like, yeah, we could help, but, you know, we have to go up a ramp, so I don't think it's going to work. And they're right about that. It would not work. Soul is trying to deal damage as much as possible with a couple of drops, it looks like, in the main and in the 3rd. But he can't clear up this army. I mean, and without his own Viking control, I don't see how he would clean up the army. The Ravens are mostly out of energy. They could have done a couple auto turrets. They do, finally. The Vikings just run away. That was a devastating blow there. HeRoMaRinE just found Soul out of position, actually. Like, there just wasn't enough of his tanks actually protecting against the actual attack path. And that's gonna kill Soul. That kills the Soul there. Soul's not gonna give up yet, but I mean, he's also down to a very limited number of Marines. So I don't know if he could like a base trade. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Very good drop from HeRoMaRinE. Noticing the lack of defenses of the standalone tanks, Soul is going to bust out on the left side. With no Marines of HeRoMaRinE picking his own tanks, that was a possibility, but Soul still comes out of this down 40 supply, about 10 of it, 15 of it in workers, 30 of it in the army supply. What is kind of funny is that HeRoMaRinE saw an opportunity to go right through the middle here, and it worked brilliantly. He did miss an opportunity to stop this command center from finishing. So Soul does have a fourth already up and running alongside HeRoMaRinE, but he has so much catching up to do. So much. And the engineering bays are in the natural, so he lost out on the upgrades. He's going to fall way behind on that. And, 3 tanks. They're going to hold. Ravens are still available for HeRoMaRinE. So excellent focus fire from Soul. Keeps his tanks alive, but is it going to be enough? Barely. Just barely enough. And he dropped on top of the tanks trying to clear up HeRoMaRinE's army. Not quite going to be able to, but that is only a portion of the Blue Terran's army. HeRoMaRinE's got still 50 more supplies. He's going to have 2-2-1 finishing. As Soul does start his 2-2. He's trying to recover, man. He's doing his absolute best, but he's got nothing else going for him. There's nothing else on the map to pull HeRoMaRinE back or force him to take, I guess, the riskier choice. It is all about HeRoMaRinE slowly and steadily moving in. 2-2 is not quite done, but doesn't matter. He's got a good concave. He's got plenty of tanks. SCDs are pulled into this in the last attempt to hold, but it will not be working. GG. You know, I feel like for like a month, Ravens were kind of falling out, you know? People weren't going for 3 Ravens after it was the standard. 3 Ravens was becoming the standard. All the Koreans are doing it. And then at some point, it kind of stopped being used for like extra wire reason. Not entirely, but we saw people even only going for 1 instead of 3. And then we went back to being like, no, you should really get 2. And then we're back to being like, well, you really need 3. Stupid matchup. Potentially the last game for the semifinal. Again, the winner goes on to face Clem in yet another TvT. So Clem is most certainly watching someone stream and getting all the juicy deets about how either player is playing TvT. I do think there are some pretty strong stylistic differences that he would be paying attention to. As far as the actual build, I don't know if you can get enough information from just VOD watching, but if he could, then he is. And I do think he's leaning towards preparing for HeRoMaRinE. But Soul has definitely shown very scary Terran play. It's just scary. It's like most of the time, HeRoMaRiNE's able to cut the head off the snake fast enough before it bites into him. But occasionally, Soul actually sinks his fangs into him, gets a little bit of that tissue, and then runs off. In the top left of Romanticide, we got the blue Terran HeRoMaRinE. In the bottom right, it is the red Terran Soul. Okay, gas second for both. I should really start doing gas second builds in all my matchups. After so long of doing gas first, so I've just gotten used to it. But I'm gonna try and push the gas second. And then Maru comes and wins with Ravens, and suddenly everyone wants to use Ravens. I mean, it does happen. Absolutely. I mean, we can get to see any TvZ today, but I have no doubt that all the Terrans in the world looked at Kira's TvZ against Raynor and Serral and went, oh, I see. And then are doing it on ladder. And it's only a matter of time before we see it attempted frequently in professional play. I think literally you just have to cast a TvZ and I would see it from someone. But, anywho. Because that was some pretty damn impressive stuff. I did get the replays. Good old Alpha X providing the replays for $10 on the Matcherino. Seemed pretty fair. Pretty worth. So I'm probably going to go into that one of these days. Cast the games that I didn't get to see. Should be fun time. More importantly, HeRoMaRinE did go for something a little bit different. So it's not a proxy 2-racks, but he is going to 2-racks. That's something that you always have to consider. TvT is like PvP, it's like ZBZ. Even if the person is generally going to be macroing and generally looking towards a more standard 1-1-1 composition, you can never depend on it. Pylon's out there somewhere. Second rack's out there somewhere. In this case, well, it's at home, so it's not that big of a deal. The amount of Reapers that can suddenly appear, make no mistake, can as suddenly win a game as a proxy 2-racks. We have seen that happen. It's not really supposed to, but for instance, if Soul was doing a 1 Reaper, Reactor, Tech Lab Factory, no Hellion, you know, like literally if he only had 1 Reaper. He was really, really, really greedy. It would kill him, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it would kill him. But if he does more what's standard, a little bit safer for sure, the 2 Reapers, the 2 Hellions, I mean, he should be fine. But I do like what this kind of goes into. There was a build at one point where it'd go into a 2-1-1 off of 2 bases, but it doesn't do that anymore. Hasn't done in a while. It's going to go into a 3rd CC. HeRoMaRinE is going to get the upper hand in just the map control. A little bit of a, you stay back, I scouted you, you don't know what I'm doing. My Reapers maybe get a couple SCV because that's great. Like, it's going to start things off in HeRoMaRiNE's favor. The ball is in his court, is what is happening right now. And whether he actually serves it back or not is up to him and his control. We have come full fucking circle right now. That nice line of Reapers. I'm liking the micro from HeRoMaRiNE, but Soul just, I think just Soul had too many units. You know, unless it was going to be Soul in a ramp position, totally choked up, which can happen. I don't think HeRoMaRiNE is going to get a whole lot. But there's always that chance with a micro. And HeRoMaRiNE does save all 5 Reapers, which would come back later. Go up one of these, you know, here, and then could really wreck a mineral line. But it doesn't happen. So HeRoMaRiNE has a faster 3rd CC. He's already starting up his stim. His technology is going to be later. He's not going to have a very powerful tank count. And that's usually really important for TvT. It is very important for TvT. So much of TvT revolves around the 1-1-1 setup with a lot of emphasis on the starport because of the Ravens and the Vikings in the early to mid game. And then we talk about Marines later on. But this changes that up a little bit. It also is going to change up the timing of drop potential, which you usually don't worry about drops except for like a single medevac drop in the early game. Now, already at like 5:30, Soul has to worry about drops. That is a very different way you're going to have to position yourself. In fact, I feel like Soul, this is going to sound really, really out there. Terrible caster call. But I feel like Soul is like almost already lost the game. If HeRoMaRiNE, he's just scouted the Banshees. He has a scan. And he doesn't take more than like 6 SCVs worth of damage. Alright, just 2 right now. HeRoMaRiNE is going to be able to multitask a lot. He's going to be able to pull Soul left and right. And Soul is so far behind on 3rd CC, again, putting on location is basically a must. But that really just, it's going to depend on HeRoMaRiNE. Can he actually use his drops when Soul figures out what this is? And I think he already has with the Banshee getting into the main base and the amount of Marines he's seen. Does Soul position everything absolutely correctly? He has only a few of those really important units I was talking about. He only recently just swapped his factory back on a tank production. That's not a lot to handle 17 Marines that have stim, that will have combat shields faster. But while the Banshees didn't do a whole lot, it does seem like it's keeping HeRoMaRinE back. He didn't immediately race forward to go for a Marine drop. And Soul is going to be able to get his third base on location against someone who had, again, far more mobility. So, the Doomsday scenario I was thinking of didn't happen. The game continues on, and we'll probably even just go into a normal-looking TvT. The beginning build orders be damned. Who cares? Soul's going to move out first, actually. So he could be behind in those combat shields. Keep that in mind. HeRoMaRinE, he got such a fast third CC and then proceeded to never plant that on the grounds. He scouted the third CC of his opponent. He scouted the setup of his opponent.
Upgrade complete.
I'm actually really shocked that HeRoMaRinE has played this out. I thought he was going to do the Reaper into the third CC, into the drops, planting down his third CC. What has he seen that made him so scared? I'm actually just straight up confused. I mean, you don't see this dynamic very often, so I have nothing to base, like, experience-wise off of. So I'm just trying to think in my own games would be problematic. Like, HeRoMaRinE builds a bunker after turtling and is natural? This is a very weird game for me. And now Soul, like, has everything that his opponent does. Is going to be the one to out-multitask HeRoMaRinE. Like, what happened in this game? What the hell? Well, now it looks like HeRoMaRinE's build sucks. And it can look like that. If you don't stop the third CC from being put down, if you don't actually find damage with your faster stim and faster medevacts, you're going to be behind usually in like a tank count. You're not going to have any of your own Ravens. Apparently, you're not going to get your third down nearly as fast as your opponent. That's the big question mark for me. And he just fell behind. The only thing he has better than his opponent, a 2-2, is on the way. But he never used his Marines that much. Finally, he's using his Marines a lot. Almost catches the third CC, but a quick repair and then a dropout as the action gets intense. So, okay, I'm pretty sure the players would have felt that one, but who knows? Alright, well, HeRoMaRinE, it just feels like this was supposed to happen a while ago. Like, it's happening now. Why? Why not earlier? He's gonna take that fight in the main. Soul is, I'm not sure he has enough. He's bringing more Marines forward, but he loses tanks, loses medevacs. He's going to finally clear this up entirely, as he splits his Marines half and half in the main and in the third, and he is still denied HeRoMaRinE's third, but HeRoMaRinE, that drop did a lot to bring him back. It looked like he was just being corralled and slowly dying. He was down 30, 40 supply, now he's down 20. He's about to go down a little bit more, though, as the tanks are focus fired. HeRoMaRinE is going to have 2-2 eventually, but looks like a concave, a good split, good micro is going to be able to clear this up, so that works as well, but I'm gonna have to look at this game again, man. I'm literally asking chat, like, which I don't do too often, but he saw Banshees and a 1-1-1 setup. I guess maybe he thought it was, you know what? Oh, you know, I think I figured it out. I think he thought that it was going to be a 2-base push. Okay. All right, the brain cogs are starting to work right now. I think when he saw that there wasn't a third CC, he thought that there was going to be like a tank Viking, like tank Raven push, like we've been seeing in some of the other TvTs, right? So when he saw that, he was like, I'll just take care of it and then move out. So when Soul actually got for a third CC on location, and HeRoMaRine's like, where the fuck is the push? HeRoMaRinE just became much further behind. I think I figured it out. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore. So many things have happened, but one of the things happening is a decent fight for HeRoMaRinE. He's got his tanks helping defend his actual third. Looks like his Centaur might go down. No, the medevacs come back, which they are not, because Soul is way too busy to the drop to the bottom left. Yeah, maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, Soul was really pushing into HeRoMaRinE, but the supplies have evened up. The worker count's still in favor of Soul, but Only if he's mining consistently. HeRoMaRiNE already working on his +3 attack. Will eventually have upgrade advantage again, but it's about to be lost out. And try and take the fights. Go very well. That scan reveals a very much planetary command center. So maybe you don't drop on top of that, but he actually drops on top of the tanks. Liberator sieging up, though, maybe wasn't a part of HeRoMaRiNE's plan, as he cannot take them out, and also there's the mass amount of Marines that were there to actually combat him. HeRoMaRiNE thought the speed was priority, actually. Doesn't take too good of a fight. Doesn't think it's good enough, though, for the supplies to be even. As he once again digs into the third. There are 5 SCVs lost for Soul. Actually been trading a lot on the economy, so still even workers, but eventually Soul will have better mining with his 4th already up and running as a planetary. HeRoMaRiNE has no 4th even being built. Whatever, you know, again, I think I figured it out, but yeah, him defending like he did for as long as he did really did set him up into an awkward position. Now he is utilizing what I thought he was going to do. Now he is actually dropping everywhere and trying to pull Soul apart. And it certainly worked to an extent. He has bridged the supply gap that was really devastating 3 minutes ago. And has a lot of potential. You can say all the potential in the world, but I'm not sure about that. A couple medevacs go down, tanks siege up on the high ground, but they're still in vision with the medevacs of Soul, so they still gotta skedaddle. Run away, tanks, run away. Liberator is going to meet a missile turret and then, oh, just barely move away from it. So that's going to be something he has to clean up. HeRoMaRiNE's consistent pressure is not gotten much in the last 30 seconds. Now moving into the right side. Side's kind of awkward because it does have some beautiful tank positioning against other races. It's actually just very choky against Terran. Giving Soul time to try and hold on. It looks like HeRoMaRiNE has already broken through that choke I was talking about. He sieges up his Liberators. He's got the concave, but a depth of tanks that he does not want to tackle forces him to retreat back through the choke he had just busted through. Liberators will go down, but HeRoMaRiNE is going to reposition over to the right side. Now, his tank count's not very high, and he's going to lose that one on the left. So 2 tanks are not going to take down the planetary very fast at all. Giving Soul time to build up his army defensively and take this down. But he's also want to be keeping tabs on HeRoMaRiNE. He certainly is. And the Liberator and the Natural is going to deal a lot of damage. HeRoMaRiNE still with no 4 CC on the way. Could lift his main command center. That could happen. But he's also about to be beaten out in upgrades. He's had an upgrade lead up until, I guess, 3-3 finishes for Soul, and then he'll be behind for a limited amount of time, but still. As we have consistent fighting, and these, like, 20-second differences could be huge. Big drop into the Natural once again. It's TvT! I don't think it's gonna work, though. That might be enough of a loss for HeRoMaRiNE to tap out. It is. GG. Soul takes game 4 and brings us to a game 5. Ooh, I feel like that was supposed to be a nice, clean game from HeRoMaRiNE, and that scan actually hurt him more than it helped him. I was like, oh, he's got the Banshees. Great, won't take any damage. But I think seeing the setup and no 3rd CC actually made him more scared than he had to be. Especially because we know Soul had stopped producing tanks. He wasn't going to, you know, have a lot of Ravens or a lot of Vikings. Like, there was an opportunity. It was weird. They're going to overlap with NA at this rate. Very likely. HeRoMaRiNE Clam, I don't think, is going to be a quick 3-0. Could be. I don't think it is. Game 5 is on Pillars of Gold. In the bottom left, he is HeRoMaRinE. In the top right, he is Soul. And I think HeRoMaRinE will not be trying another 2-racks opener. Not because of the Reapers not doing very much, and they didn't get a whole lot done. But because the follow-up, I think, put him too far out of the usual comfort zone. I think there's a lot of potential in that build, which is why I was like, it feels like it's a really good game for HeRoMaRinE. If the next minute were actually going to pan out like I was imagining in my head. It very much did not, though. So that was a bad call. But yeah, it can be really frightening to play against. It can really give you a lot of control and like very momentum-based matchups at times. And it can catch your opponent off guard if they don't, expect the follow-up of the 2-racks, if they're unfamiliar with the follow-up. Soul, I don't think, is unfamiliar with it, to be clear. I think Soul has done that build and that follow-up, and I think that he knew it was there because he saw there was 5 Reapers, but still. But that last game did not make it look very good at all. The Reapers didn't do anything, and the follow-up looked scared. I think it's the opposite of, like, it's supposed to be out there on the map being a little over-aggressive, even, and instead it was the opposite. It was very over-defensive. So it looked awkward, looked bad. Not a good game to study off of if you wanted to build like that. I can only hope in the next potential 6 TvTs included, potentially, that we do see a cleaner follow-up of that build. Just so you can, I can be like, yeah, look, it can be good, it can be. Because not getting it now. I got a factory on the way for both players. Oh, thank God. Okay, so someone says I came from HeRoMaRiNE's stream. His exact words were, I was too scared. Okay. Oh, my God. All right. I mean, that was clear when he built a bunker, and we had the God vision and being like, okay, well, what's going on here? But it just took me forever to figure out why he was scared. And then it slowly pieced together in my mind. But thank you for the confirmation. Yeah, HeRoMaRiNE is playing scared. HeRoMaRiNE, a fantastic streamer, usually streams during these cups, and also very honest about his feelings. Sometimes a little too honest. But it is nice if you're ever like, I don't understand, like, what happened, what was going on there, and usually he's talking about it. So, we got the factory expands from both players, and into the command center. Even if they were to attack each other with the ramp as well and Pillars of Gold, probably not going to be too effective. Ramp plus the exact same opener. Down to, okay, first difference. First difference is a faster third gas for HeRoMaRiNE. Medevac's gonna come out for HeRoMaRiNE. So another, what? I'm not usually a fan of this stuff, but if HeRoMaRiNE does it, then it's good. So maybe drops Marine Tank into the main, and then Hellion Reaper into the natural. Can't see it going the other way, so pretty sure that's what's gonna be. It can be tricky, if something else is happening. If it's a 1 base tank drop, like they went all up to the Starport for a command center, I lose respect for that person. But, alright, 2 base with 2 things going on. There is some potential here for HeRoMaRiNE to catch Soul miss-split. That's what you do with drops. You're hoping to catch someone either just not there at all, totally out of position, or with too few units to actually defend. Medevac boosts over, so it's not going to be able to boost into the main, but that's still fine enough. It's actually going to be... Okay, alright. I missed that stim to snipe earlier on, which was brilliant casting on my part, but yeah, using this position, hoping to find maybe a couple of more barracks, maybe a factory there, Starport there. I'm not going to find that. We're going to find a supply depot. This is forcing Soul to respond. He doesn't want to get any farther than this. Tank does not get saved. Last tank shot from Soul. Literally makes it disappear. It had no death animation.
SCVs are going down for HeRoMaRinE. Soul actually gets his Banshee in with absolutely no defense, and that's not just 7 Banshees. That's the command center and the 7 SCVs. It's command center and the supply depot going down, being delayed. HeRoMaRinE had to pull his SCVs all the way to his 3rd base. And he's trying to get some return damage done. It's not working out much at all. This is a cloakless Banshee. This is a... Man, I hope he didn't build a Cyclone, and I hope that his Cyclone is in position. Banshee, and that has not done that much damage in a long time, I feel, but it is such a surprise. It is such a surprise. You just assume a Raven's on the way out, and at best a Raven gets 4 or 5 SCV kills before you pull away from the auto turret, that is. But that Banshee did a fuck ton of damage. Excuse my French. Did a lot. Putting Soul in a very powerful position. HeRoMaRinE is so focused on controlling his army, getting the most out of it, that he was not prepared to deal with the Banshee. Nor did he have very strong units to deal with it until the Cyclone appeared. You know, one ring at a time doesn't clear up a Banshee. Soul about to cause an upset, perhaps. HeRoMaRinE has not been as dominating in these open cups the last month. Before fall, it was like, my god, stop it. 3-0 and amazing Protosses and Terrans, like, it was nothing. Let's be real, there hasn't really been a lot of Zergs in the top 4. But, nah, man, not lately. Soul really bringing it to him, and Clem's gonna have to readjust his expectations if he's watching. As Soul does have a 7-worker lead. Their TC is already being lifted over, I mean, with HeRoMaRinEs, but he's actually gonna just have better saturation. Army supplies are pretty similar. Stim timing favorable for Soul. Engineering bay timing also favorable for Soul, really utilizing the SCV difference. I mean, it's not just 7 SCVs, and then we don't think much more beyond that, because I feel like sometimes we do. We're just like, oh, he's down on SCVs, he's down on whatever worker. You know, it just means the other guy's ahead. But we don't sometimes think about what they get a hit on exactly. Well, 1-1. And faster barracks is usually what it is. Drop into the main is going to bypass the Viking and get some damage done. Remember, SCV kills later on in the game are less impactful. So we'd have to get maybe like 7 or 8 before I'd be like, yeah, okay. I guess he has cut up in workers already, so maybe not 7 or 8 then. If he got 7 or 8, I guess it would just bounce back the peak into his favor. Drop is eventually cleared up. Some lost mining time. So most of the damage done. HeRoMaRinE is going to try and take advantage of maybe Soul reacting too strongly to the main base, but he scans and sees that there is plenty. Sensor tower helps out. That drop apparently was not cleaned up, by the way. Oh my god, how was it not cleaned up? The Viking died before it got the last shot in the medevac. Are you kidding me? I just assumed. That is so obnoxious, because Soul also has to deal with the approaching army. It was supply depots, it was more SCVs. My god, this drop though. He's gonna drop top of the tank? Nah, he's not gonna do that. Yeah, no, he moves over here. Psych! Just move away from the tank. Oh my god. It's like a turtle. And he's like, haha, you can't catch me. Dumbass. He finally catches him with the Vikings. But as the Vikings move over to the right side, HeRoMaRinE moves over to the left of the Ravens. I mean, that's still a very dangerous thing to do as he loses one of his Ravens. But, I love the idea. HeRoMaRinE now up 17 workers, has oversaturated his 30. Actually might want to stop building SCVs. Hello? But, oh no, he's finally caught Soul out of position. Soul is starting to move out, and then that's exactly when HeRoMaRinE moved in. Despite having the sensor tower, he still loses control over his 3rd base, and that's more lost mining as the Raven that is alive goes back into the natural for even more SCV kills. It looks like there is going to be a big old cleanup on HeRoMaRinE's army. All the tanks are going to go down to a nice concave. The amount of tanks that Soul had and the Vikings landing, so that was a very powerful cleanup on the army supply. Now the question is, can HeRoMaRinE mustering up defenses to not just lose the game, as he has really established an economic lead, although I will put an asterisk on that. 73 workers sounds amazing, but look how much he's oversaturated. He actually just went into autopilot mode, I think.
you know, the autopilot mode of building SCVs or thinking, oh, I have a 4CC on the way. He did not. So that's actually not quite true. And his army supply is really actually quite concerning. He also doesn't have any upgrades. HeRoMaRiNE's combat shield's only just now finally finishing, and Soul, I think, is about to do it. He's moving into the third base of his opponent. His tanks are siege up. He still has his Ravens. He still has his Vikings, and HeRoMaRiNE is coming through his own choke between his Vespian Geyser and his minerals, and he is going to have to tap out. GG. Soul actually taken down HeRoMaRiNE to face Clem in the finals. I gotta believe that is Soul's first finals appearance. It is an excellent showcasing of our Polish Terran. And HeRoMaRiNE is going to have to, I don't know, work on being the EPT Open Cup HeRoMaRiNE. Have to figure out what changed. Maybe everyone just got better. It's possible.